r/AskReddit. What terrifying confession has someone told you while drunk? I worked in a hospital and an alcoholic guy I knew from around my town came in. Of course he was very drunk, so he got to bed. He was homeless at this point. Just as he was starting to settle, he screamed. I slit his ducking throat. So I went up to him and asked him to settle, and he started telling me that he did it while in the army and could never forgive himself for it. Cried himself to sleep and died in the local park a few months later. Once at a college party, this big guy got upset, picked up the table and threw it across the room, shouting my uncle molested me. Everyone was terrified, but we all felt really bad for the guy. Damn. Fingers crossed somebody there helped him into therapy. That statement'll stop a party dead in its tracks, and honestly for his sake it's good that it did. If my ex was still in love with me, I wouldn't be married to you. Oh my god. A coworker told me she went all angel of mercy and smothered her elderly, dementia-ridden grandmother while she was sleeping. The next Monday in the office was definitely a weird one after that particular happy hour confession. My granny always tells us to push her out onto a nice flow when she can't think for herself anymore, which is slightly disturbing but fine, until she semi-ironically talks about going into her friend's dementia home and machine gunning all the old people. I heard my mom tell her friend I was a mistake and the reason her and my dad divorced. That's why you don't eavesdrop. After my mom died, I was going through her email. We never had a good relationship, pretty much ever. Anyways, I went in her Gmail and just did a search for my name. Found a part where she told my aunt how much she didn't like me and wishes I would just go away. It wasn't the least bit surprising, and I've said the same thing about her, but it still stung a bit. The thing we always fought about was her drinking. She was a chronic abusive alcoholic. I have a friend whose grandmother married her late husband's friend. One day while drunk, he confessed to killing her first husband. She packed up the kids and left. Did she report him? Did he kill the first husband to get her for himself? Or did he marry her out of guilt? I have questions. My sister's boyfriend at the time told me he thought he might have fallen for the wrong sister. Doesn't compare to most of these, but my sister is my best friend, and I was so scared he might ruin that. Edit. Since a lot of people have asked. No, I never told my sister about it. Another edit. They broke up very shortly after this, because he was untrustworthy in other ways. He stole some money. She kicked him to the curb. Night before his wedding day. I'm still in love with C, but I'm still gonna marry F tomorrow because it's too late now. A friend of mine died from a drug overdose. After the funeral, a mutual friend of ours and I were getting drunk when he broke down crying. He asked me if I remembered the time when he and our dead friend told me about an accident that they'd witnessed where they saw a truck driver die. I told him I did. He then told me the most ducked up shit. He said that our friend ran up to the dying man and stole his wedding ring, and that the man couldn't do anything but look up, terrified, at our friend as he was being robbed. I knew they were bad into drugs, but I never thought they could do anything like that. I grew up with them. They were like my brothers. I don't really trust anyone completely anymore. Went on a work do and my coworker, a major stone-faced bland woman, got pretty drunk. Ended up telling me she discovered her dad's body when he hung himself. Needless to say, I realized why she was the way she was after that. Had a buddy tell me his friend drunkenly confessed to him that he had killed his stepdad and made it look like a suicide. His stepdad had been abusive towards him and his mom for years, and it finally broke when he made it look like his stepfather had hung himself in their garage. I don't know who the friend was. I was never given a name or much else of the story. After a work party, the wife of a colleague and me ended up being the last two people standing. We were both fairly drunk when she started telling me about how she was raped by a priest when she was a kid. The church covered it all up and the bastard never faced any charges. Oof. Here's to hoping her parents believed her. Friend had a similar experience and her mom and dad couldn't reconcile that this man they'd known as pious and God-fearing for so many years could do something like that. Ducking sucks, man. My ex told me that he had been molested by his sister between the ages of 6-11. She was 9-14. His dad walked in once and didn't do anything. His own family knew that he was being sexually abused for years and did absolutely nothing to protect him. I had a male friend tell me he had raped me once when I was passed out drunk. I'm a straight male and had been friends with this guy for 15 years and had been drunk with him a lot. Since then I have found out a lot of messed up stuff about him. One of my best friends since middle school opened up to me the day we had our last day of high school. We had been partying all day, got off at 10 AM, but most people left at around 3 PM to go get ready for the seniors dinner and after party and whatnot. My friend stayed behind with our class president. I told him I'd pick him up for the dinner and left. When I got back, both were falling down drunk and in tears. A few years earlier, our class priest had lost his father. I take my buddy back to his house so he can get changed for the dinner, and on the way he tells me what happened. They had kept drinking when everyone left and eventually got to the topic of their dads. I had never met my friend's dad. He died and that was all I knew. I never knew how he died. It turns out my buddy's dad was a lawyer or something in the country he's from and was being extorted by a gang. When money started to run out, my buddy's dad sent the family to another country and told them he'd meet them there, that he had to finish some things up. A few weeks after moving they learned that he had been murdered by the gang. It completely ducked my friend up. We always used to drink heavily and whatever since we were in high school. For me it was just drinking. For my buddy it was numbing the pain. It was ducking shocking when he told me this, and really made me understand him a lot more. Why he acted how he acted. Haha, I put a Darryl in your beer. We're gonna party till the sun comes up, bro. Spiking people's drinks is so scummy. Is there any more to this story? At one point he whipped out a knife and put a hole in the surprisingly thin bathroom wall of the dive bar. Shithead carved his name above it. I had a massive mood swing and got in a really nasty parking lot fight. I woke up with dried blood on my knuckles, heart beating out of my chest, and paralyzing anxiety. The guy was like the Kenny Barney of our friend group, always spastic and obnoxious, and taking things past the point of being entertaining. No one ever wanted to hang out with him one-on-one. I thought I was being a good guy by giving him a shot. This effectively got him ostracized from our friend group. I had someone tell me that he molested his daughter when she was an infant because he was angry and thought that his girlfriend had cheated on him and that she wasn't his biological daughter. He went on to say DNA testing was done and it was determined that she was actually his daughter and that he felt very guilty about the whole thing. His daughter was 7-8 at the time he told me this. I literally spent a night tossing and turning thinking about it and finally decided I had to report him. It was me who did the confessing. When I was 18 I was sexually assaulted on a bridge in the middle of the night when I was all alone. My mum works in hearing, and she had always told me to bite someone if I got into trouble. So I did. I bit into his neck until my teeth met again. He fell down, then I ran all the way home. A few weeks later I read in the news that a serial assaulter had gone to the hospital with neck wounds and later died. They'd drawn it down to him attacking someone and them acting in self-defense. I never told anyone until I got really drunk with my boyfriend last year and spilled it. He couldn't believe I'd kept that secret. My mother's first husband, the sperm donor. I was 16. She had just walked out that same day and he got extremely drunk and told me that I was never supposed to have been born and that I should have died with my brother. I asked him what he meant by my brother since I had no siblings and he confessed to beating the shit out of my mother when she was pregnant and she ended up in the hospital. I was born but my twin brother died in the womb. At the time my mother's English, she's Polish, was not good, so he claimed to doctors that she just fell down the stairs and threatened to have her deported and used me as blackmail if she ever told anyone. I followed her soon after once she had contacted me that she'd found a place to stay. I asked her if she had anything to tell me regarding my birth and she told me the same story. I guess that explains why I felt like I was missing a part of myself all my life. When I was 14 my mom took me and my sisters and a couple of our friends to the beach. My sister, 15, and I got our own room with our 2 friends and wound up meeting some boys and getting drunk. My sister's friend, 15F, was really drunk and got super upset and confessed that her stepfather had been sexually molesting her, raping her, for years. Really horrible stuff. It sobered everyone up fast. We rallied around her, told her we were there for her, yada yada. But when we got home from the beach trip a few days later I knew I needed to tell my mom. After I told my mom she got the state police involved. There was a trial, and the man wound up sentenced to 8 years in prison. It turned out he was doing it to the younger sister as well. A coworker was pretty inebriated when he told me that he hates his life, he hates his partner, and the only reason he's still married to her is because he loves his daughter and doesn't want to lose her. My mother once told me a story while drunk. She had a pregnancy before me, but her boyfriend wasn't ready for a kid, so he kicked her in the stomach until she was no longer pregnant. So for revenge she had her friend who was a prostitute seduce him, take him to a hotel room, and tied him up. My mom then described how she took a baseball bat and broke every bone she could of his. Described how she had to throw water on him to keep him awake. She was never tried for it, so I'm assuming he lived. I had heard the kicked in the stomach till miscarriage part before. The whole bat thing was a new detail. She hasn't mentioned it since. I was having dinner with a group of friends and one girl was talking about how at a party she helped a drunk guy friend get onto a bed and then she got him naked and started riding him. She said he woke up halfway through but was receptive, was very happy and completely okay with it because he found her hot. And after they were done he joked to her that he would have punched her face in and called the cops if he didn't find her attractive. I honestly wasn't sure how I was supposed to react to that story, because what she did was technically rape. But then if her victim genuinely didn't mind, then, yeah, I don't know. Granted, she was talking to a group of friends including me, so I didn't really have to give her a reaction. In college, I was getting drunk with a couple friends. One admitted that she gave her brother a blowjob. Her brother had caught her watching lesbian porn and threatened to tell their parents if she didn't suck his dong. My other friend and I were horrified and asked her why she didn't just tell her parents first about her brother blackmailing her and that the claim she was watching lesbian porn was a lie. She paused for a second, said she didn't think of that. When he was 11, my dad was abducted and raped by 3 men. He was so terrified that he never told his parents. After my grandpa passed away, my dad finally told my grandma what happened. She told him that they already knew. One of my dad's siblings knew and had told grandpa. She just said that he had taken care of it. A few years later, a developer bought my grandparents' farm and turned it into a development. During excavation they found 3 male skeletons buried in a single grave. I guess grandpa really did take care of it. Rangers really do lead the way. If this is true, it's pretty epic. I'm surprised that they left him to deal with it on his own though. People didn't know what to do about it back then. People didn't talk about it. It's a shame, because he ended up molesting a child later on in life. I wonder how things might have been different if he'd gotten help. He's in prison now. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.